We're here to speak to the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, that is Honorable John Mbadi, who's agreed to give us a quick interview just to understand what is currently going on, why are we seeing the pricing that we are currently seeing. Mheshimiwa Waziri, thank you so much for making time
to
speak
Jimmy.
to you and TV,
Thank you.
and to explain some of these things that we're currently seeing. Now, one of the things that we have seen in the past week, you are quoted as saying that we will not see much change with the oil prices. What happened?
I don't know when was I quoted
Yeah.
to having said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think maybe that's someone else, unless you play that clip.
Yes.
But let me just address it. I think we have a big crisis, and this is not something to be happy about. We're concerned that the transport sector is basically paralyzed today because of this strike that we are seeing. But it is important to understand the background to where we are today. This is actually a global phenomenon. The high fuel prices is a world crisis. I was recently in the USA, in Washington, in a meeting of World Bank and IMF, and we spent almost 80% discussing the possibility that this country is going to, the world is going to face a fuel crisis because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz out of the, as a result of the war that is going on between the USA and Iran. And you know, Strait of Hormuz actually controls, or that is where 20% at least of the world oil supply comes from that area. But Africa is even more affected, where we belong, because bulk of our fuel supply comes from that particular region. Yeah. Now, all our marketers have to source for fuel elsewhere. Fortunately for us, we had an arrangement where our oil marketers will have to ensure continuous supply of fuel, but it will be at a cost. And you can see they are now going to other places, including India, to source for fuel. This has put pressure. Now, there is what we call the Platts prices, or if you like, index prices of petroleum products or fuel. That price, on 28th of February this year, before the day the war broke out, the price, for example, of diesel was at $642 per metric ton. Yeah. Today, that price has shot up to $1,120 per metric tons. That is about 76%, going to 80% of the cost as it were in February. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at our price adjustments, they are still, if we did not intervene as a government, the prices today would be 80%, 76 to 80% more. If you look at the adjustments in the prices of these products, yeah. Petrol, for example, petrol is at 35% increase, and diesel it at about 55%. So because of the government intervention, yeah. That is why the prices have not risen to the level they would have without intervention. I'm not saying there cannot be more intervention. There probably could be, but we as a government have already intervened significantly.
All right, and was it one of the things that we know, and the anger that a lot of Kenyans have, or their frustration, is the fact that there are so many taxes and levies that are imposed on petroleum products, and the argument currently is that can the government do away with some of these levies and taxes, and what would be the cost of that?
Jimmy, let me tell you something. There are two things that this government has done that should be appreciated. Number one is to ensure continuous supply of of fuel. You go to Burundi today. Yeah. What decisions have they taken? That you cannot take more than 30 liters of fuel per week. There are some countries where they have told staff to work from home. People are taking desperate measures at this time because we are in desperate times. We need to also look across and see what is happening elsewhere. Look at the United States of America. The United States of America, which is a net exporter of fuel, the prices have shot up 80% higher. Now, let me come back home to this question about levies. If you look at those levies, the levies and the taxes are supposed to help our development agenda. This economy is a big economy, Jimmy, and we all know it. First, take the roads, for example. There is road maintenance levy in this in the price of fuel. We need to maintain our roads, and we need to do our roads. If you are going to remove the road maintenance levy, are the matatu operators going to be willing, and now the rains have just stopped, are they going to be willing to drive in potholes? Or, because one must give way for the other. Yeah. If we are not going to have this taxes and these levies, it means we are going to stop a number of things. So we have to weigh.
Waziri, some will argue that even with all these taxes and levies, we are still driving in potholes.
No, but assuming they were not there, look, but the truth is that the government has also been doing a lot in maintaining our roads. We have probably in this region the longest kilometers of paved roads in this region.
Yeah.
We are the only middle income economy in this region. The others are low income economy. You go to our neighboring countries without mentioning them, you'll find some countries have only 6,000 kilometers. How many do we have? Over 20,000, and we're still doing more. Some politicians, because of populism, have been saying and calling for us to remove the 7 shillings. They know that is not possible. Why? Because the 7 shilling has already been sold out. And that is how we raise money, through securitization. The roads that had stalled and people were complaining have now been jump-started. Are we going to compromise on long-term development of the country for short-term expediency? It is not. Okay. And we don't know, by the way, how long this will take. There are measures already that we have taken, Jimmy. Right. One of them is that we are using the stabilization fund to cushion, and we have already spent, between April and now, we have already spent 11.2 billion to cushion and reduce prices. We have reduced VAT. VAT reduction to 8% in 1 month costs this economy 12 billion, and now it is 2 months. That is 24 billion. If it goes for the whole year, it is almost 300 billion. We must sit back and ask ourselves, yes, we have a crisis to deal with, but can't we deal with it in a way that does not also disrupt the entire macroeconomic fundamentals of the country, given that we don't know how long this crisis is going to persist?